Good day, everybody, and welcome back to the Triple R Show, Real World Recovery, where honesty meets feeling every single day. And today we're going to be talking about being mindful with our identity. And I used to think that my identity was tied into saying the right thing and people-pleasing and conforming to what society expected of me. And now today, through my actions, my identity is based on my values and my beliefs, and not the roles that I play in life. And we've discussed that your identity is not tied into, for me, myself, for being a teacher or a coach, a father or a husband. My identity is based on who I am deep inside and what I bring to society. And it's very fitting for today's episode. In high-pressure situations, our identity is tested. So when we're put into those situations, our identity and our behaviors take a back seat. And if we're strong-rooted in our identity, then our behaviors are warranted. And if our identity is fractured, that's where we can be uncertain in what we're doing in difficult situations. Today, we have the pleasure of having Jay, otherwise known as Packy, joining us. He is a police officer and a author of the book, The Fastest 4 Seconds, and he's going to share his story with us today. I've heard it before. Very excited for listeners to hear it as well. Packy, thank you for joining us today.
It's an honor to be with you.
Right when those 4 seconds occurred, what was going on in your body before your mind was able to take over? And how did adrenaline play a role in your awareness of the situation?
Well, I went to make a street-level narcotics arrest, and when I found the crack cocaine on the suspect, I reached and grabbed his arm and told him he was under arrest. He began to go for my weapon. It was 1 minute. I struggled with the suspect. My canine got involved. I was able to hit a remote bailout. I moved over into where the camera is that on the dash of the vehicle, which I had purchased a few months before, and the events unfold. So I went exactly 1 minute, and then it turned to a 4-second deadly encounter. I didn't know at the time he had gotten my gun. When I reached for my radio, he pulled my weapon out, struck my dog, struck the ground, and jammed the gun. I didn't know this. So when he backed away from me and pointed the gun at me and pulled the trigger, it didn't go off. I thought it to be a different make and model of a gun. I didn't recognize it to be my gun. And then it took me 4 seconds to make a decision that I needed to apply deadly force. When I went to apply deadly force, my weapon was not there. You see me on the video, I looked down, bumfuzzled, that my weapon was missing. So I pulled a backup weapon, fired 5 rounds. I thought I'd fired 2. Tunnel vision took over. I could see an image of my daughter and my wife on the front steps of our house. I carried the picture inside my patrol car, and I thought to myself, somebody else is going to walk her down the aisle. I got up, exhausted from a 1 minute struggle, and I fired the rounds. The suspect ran off what I appeared to be unaffected. I thought, wow, I missed him. As the tunnel vision went away and I began to hear things again, I looked and there were 6 or 7 gang members behind him trying to assist him. He ran about 20 feet, fell on his back. Me and the dog approached him, and he tried to fire the weapon again. I was able to realize that was my gun, take the gun away. As the dog engaged, I was able to take the gun away and make it operable again. Turned around with the dog and the gun, got the other gang members to back off because they were yelling what they were going to do to me. Went back to the radio that I dropped, went 00, which means officer needs all the assistance he can get. And that's when the PTS started taking control.
So, Pac, we've been talking about our sense of self throughout the episode. So how did your sense of self differ or change after the incident? And how did public perception with this event and this arrest play a role in your identity?
Right. Immediately, officers arrived on the scene. The crowds began to get big, and they were all chanting that I had shot him in the back 5 times. So immediately they had made up their mind that I was in the wrong and he was in the right. The officers wouldn't speak to me for a few minutes because they didn't know what had happened. They just saw a body, and then they started hearing what the quote-unquote eyewitnesses said. So I, as a police officer or a deputy sheriff, was being hammered right there at the scene that I had did something wrong, and I knew I did.
Well, absolutely. So then that goes into your perception of the event and the perspective from the outsiders. So with all of that into play, when did alcohol and other addictions start coming into play as a result of this incident?
About 10 years later, I began to drink and view pornography and texting inappropriate to other women. And it just continued. It was in secret and dark for a long time till it came to light. And when it came to light, I had to change, or I would have lost everything that I hold dear to me, not only from the shooting, but from the family aspect of it. They drew the line in the sand and said, you're going to get help.
Now, with a lot of people that are facing addiction and drug and alcohol use, we find it as a solution to what's going on. And I'm sure for you personally, the events that unfolded, there was turmoil going inside of your psyche. So I know for me personally that the use of alcohol was an escape from my uncomfortable feelings that I had about myself. So what did you find for yourself emotionally in the substance and in the other addictions?
Anything to take my mind off of it. The next morning, all the newspapers read, Officer of the Year shoots teen in the back 5 times. So immediately, the public turned on me.
What we talk about here is getting over that guilt and that shame and forgiving oneself, because forgiveness is so important. And I don't know if this is working for you, but that we did the best that we possibly could with the knowledge, the understanding, and the awareness that we had at the time. So people that are in active addiction or go through an event like this, which is very traumatic, not only to you, but to the family and your psyche, to get over that. And when you have more knowledge and you have more understanding of the event and you can process that more internally, was that where you were able to get more peace from the situation for yourself?
Yeah, it took some time. It took some validation from longtime officers and friends to finally come forth and say, hey, you did the right thing. From my wife, I ruined all the holidays because of the drinking, and I wanted to check out. I didn't want to be around the family. So I felt guilty that suspect was not at home with his family as I was with mine, because he forced me into a bad situation. I knew his dad. I felt a lot of guilt that maybe there was something I could have did that would have turned the events quicker and made it where it wasn't deadly force. It took me a long time to realize I did everything I could. Everything I was trained to do, I did.
Was there a specific moment where you realized that you needed to separate yourself from the event and start moving forward with your journey?
My wife came to me, moved me into the spare bedroom and said, we're done. What happens to you from now forward is on you, but we're done, and the kids don't want anything to do with you. So that's when I hit my knees and I began to pray. I surrounded myself with 5 men that are in the same struggle. We talk every morning at 5 o'clock. I began to attend church again, but I still like the alcohol, Mike. Once I got rid of the pornography, I was able to put an app on my phone that put up guardrails that I had, that if any internet usage would go to my wife and my pastor. And being in a military background, I couldn't let them down. So it wasn't overnight, but it took some time to know that pornography was not the way to go, and drinking was not the way to go. And it just took a long time, but it took a long time to get there too. So I had a lot to undo.
And spirituality is super important part in this whole recovery process. And people get sometimes, I think, confused between religion and spirituality. And I think sometimes that can push people away. I know for me personally, spirituality plays a large role in the journey that I've been on. Because for me, yes, I believe in God, but I believe that God flows through me and I behave and I act in a manner that would be consistent with what he would expect. But at the same time, with real world recovery, we have the power, the choice, and the responsibility to change our lives. So yes, God can move mountains for me, and I'm taking this quote, but God can move mountains for us, but we have to bring the shovel. We have to do the work to get ourselves out of this hole that we're in psychologically.
That's right, buddy. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I had to do the part and build the relationship and build the trust back that I destroyed in my friends and my wife and my kids. I knew it was on me if I failed because I had hit rock bottom. It was time. I could go nowhere but up.
And the other thing is that there's a lot of trust issues there, which a lot of people that were in active addiction are now in active recovery. Gaining trust is a huge obstacle, and it's not done with words; it's done with action, and that's where your integrity comes in. And our word, and we've used this before in the 4 agreements. Right, my word is my bond. So when I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And I'm sure when you spoke to your wife and your kids, say, "Look, all right, no more. I'm not doing this." Just like a lot of other families out there saying, "Yeah, sure." But over time, when your integrity comes into play, is where results start to be seen. But you can't have integrity if you don't know who you are with your identity. So I'm sure you started when you found yourself after this incident, you were able to started seeing some changes in your belief system and who you were, and then your actions started following your beliefs.
I found with attention deficit that I needed to be doing something, so I may as well do something productive. I helped a local boys group here that's church financed, and these kids are brought in because they have no parents or they don't have a father or they got a criminal history, and I get to mentor, fish, and hunt and teach them skills. And I realized, at the end of that day, I was like, wow, I didn't think about drinking or I didn't think about pornography. This is how a normal person should feel.
Yeah, and we become so associated with those behaviors and things that we do in everyday life that we believe they coexist. And without one, you can't have the other. And as you're just showing right now is that you were able to experience those things without the use of the pornography and the alcohol, and probably enjoy it more so because you have more awareness of the event and what you're doing, and you're able to appreciate the moment and the time that you have.
Well, I do. I mean, I remember things that I got the grandkids, and I'm looking and I'm thinking, I shouldn't be here, but because I'm doing the right things, I get to see the grandkids. My wife's going through stage 4 cancer, and I get to be here for her and care through that journey. I would not be here today if I wasn't called out on the addictions.
And called out, but also, you have to give yourself victories. We try to tell everyone that's in recovery and in transformation is that you have to acknowledge the work that you're doing to start building your self-esteem that, yes, I did the work. I made a commitment to myself. I made a commitment to my family. And that's how the results are achieved. But you have to acknowledge, because we spend so much time in the past, definitely acknowledging our poor behaviors psychologically over and over and over again, repeating them and just beating ourselves up, that it is crucial that you take the time out and give yourself a pat on the back. That's not being conceited or anything. That's building yourself up and saying, look, I'm doing a good job right now, and I love myself, and I love my family, and I'm going to continue to do the right thing. Pat, you teach at police academies now to young police officers coming through the system. Can you share with us a little bit about what you're working with them, and you're working with them on how to react in pressure situations and knowing who they are and what to expect in those 4 seconds?
Explain the brain. If you can feed it to the brain you can pull from it in a stressful situation, but if you don't feed it to the brain, it can't make it up. So, though it went down in 4 seconds, there was a lot more to it than that. I pre-planned my backup weapon. I pre-planned if I had to fire what I would do, and I had a plan. In the brain was able to pull from all that training and apply it in a millionth of a second, because the brain is a fantastic organism. What they do is they show the video in the class, and they ask questions, and all the questions are, hey, he should have did this. Why didn't he do this? Did he do it? And then they get to hear my story and realize the video is it's deceiving of what happened in the 4 seconds. So I explained to the younger troops, put a penny in the jar, you put your weapon on. Put another penny in the jar, you draw your weapon. You draw it 10 times, you put 10 pennies in the jar. You look for your front sight 10 times. And you do that over a period of time, the brain can pull from it in a stressful situation, and it won't even think about it. It'll just do it. I felt that way when I check my app, make sure my pornography app is working. I contact my 5 guys. I pray, because the devil's coming. Well, I've filled my pennies up so much. There's this large quart full of quarters. The brain can pull from that and say, hey, you know better. Here's the scripture to pull from. Here's a friend to call, and pray. And I'm able to defeat the enemy when he comes.
With these young recruits that are coming onto the force, do you work on them with compassion for the community members and for themselves when situations like this arise?
Explain to them about no one really speaking to me for a while, and not to be that person. I talk about come along beside the officer, escort him wherever he needs to go, stay at his home. And I talk about that in the class. Be nice to everyone. Be polite to everyone, even though there's a possibility you may have to kill someone you meet. But that's rare and far between, and sometimes in a 25-year career, somebody is going to try to kill you in law enforcement. You need to be ready, because your children do not want a flag. They do not want your life insurance. They want you.
Hi, everybody. This is Mike, and I hope you're enjoying our podcast. And I just wanted to remind everybody that Real World Recovery at realworldrecovery.org, we do offer one-on-one coaching sessions for transformational therapy, where we focus on personal responsibility and self-esteem, which we believe is the true essence of long-term sobriety and happiness. We do offer a free 30-minute consultation where you and I sit down. I get to know your story. You get to know my story a little bit more, and we start developing a plan for you moving forward. So we look forward to getting to know you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the podcast. Jay, your book, The Fastest 4 Seconds, is coming out next week, I believe. And your website is thefastest4seconds.com. And you can find plenty of information on Jay's story there. And there's a lot of useful resources and tools there. Jay, we'd like to thank you for being here with us and sharing your story. I'm sure
yes, sir.
This event has touched many people throughout the community, from both sides, from your family to the victim's family. And we pray for everyone that's been involved in the situation. So again, thank you for coming to the Triple R Show, where honesty meets healing every single day. And see you next time. Take care, Jay.
Hey, God bless you and what you do, and God bless America.
Bye-bye.